Jake Paul, perhaps one of the biggest YouTube stars out there, has constantly been training in the sport of boxing and is now heading into his third bout against basketball player Nate Robinson. While he has been the source of controversy many times, one cannot deny his hard work in the sport of boxing. Today, let us take a look at the boxing skills of this YouTube star. So I believe this is one of his earlier sparring sessions because according to Jake, this is sparring footage of him preparing for the fight with Deji. And something I'm noticing a lot is his utilization of the jab. This is something you don't typically see, especially from people who are still starting out in the sport. Most times you'll tend to see guys rushing in for wide and heavy shots, trying to get that one-punch knockout. And I know this is probably not his first time sparring. Pretty sure in his first sparring sessions ever, he probably was a bit wilder just like anyone else would be. But still, props to Jake for always keeping relaxed and composed. A lot of amateur boxers would still tend to be quite wild even after months of training, unlike Jake. I also really like the fact that he's also sticking to the fundamentals. You won't see him trying to throw crazy combinations as compared to other first timers, but instead he's really sticking with those 1-2 combos. He even does something quite crafty here to set up the hook. He throws a couple jabs at the opponent, then he feints another jab and goes for the lead hook. Although when he started sparring with some professionals, you can see that there's still a lack of snap in his punches. But then again, these are professional boxers and it's really hard to hurt guys of that caliber. And this is also the 6th round of sparring. But Jake can still quite keep up with the opposition. Aside from just being physically fit, a lot of his endurance and stamina has a lot to do with his style. Since Jake is quite composed and not too wild, he won't gas himself out too early, and he can keep going quite long. In his fight with Deji, just like in his sparring, we still see Jake sticking with his fundamentals, trying to catch Deji with jabs and straights. And also utilizing that same check hook he was pulling off in sparring. Although a problem with Jake is that his nose tends to get bloody easily, and that could affect his future bouts because it can cause complications with breathing, and the ringside doctors are gonna have a closer look on you if you're bleeding profusely from the nose, and they might even stop the fight. Another big problem with his style is that he's always keeping his hands down. Now, unless you have the reflex skills of Ali or Whitaker, then I suggest avoiding this because it makes you open to so much more shots. Shots that could have simply been blocked if your hands were up. Jake's stamina was real good in this fight, and as the rounds kept going, Deji was getting more and more tired and couldn't really keep up anymore. That is why it's so important to stay with a steady pace so you won't gas yourself out in the later rounds, something Deji did not do. Jake throws a final combination at Deji and the fight ends here. Jake has enhanced his skills even much more now by training with the likes of Shane Mosley, and we really see Jake treating his training very seriously. He's not slacking off, he's going as hard as he can to improve himself each day. I mean, this is some seriously tough training he's doing with Shane Mosley. Jake even went as far as to go to Big Bear where the altitude is much higher and would train both at morning and night. This just goes to show how serious Jake is about this whole boxing thing. He would even start studying other professional boxers during his free time. Shane really tries to improve Jake's boxing too by utilizing a calf shoe that can help Jake improve his footwork because this helps Jake practice keeping his weight evenly spaced out on both feet. By keeping your weight evenly spaced out on both feet, it makes it easier to shift from side to side. And we also see Jake improving on the snap and power of his punches. All this training would come into perfect culmination in his fight with Gib. While he still tends to keep his hands down quite low, we are also seeing much better head movement now than before, and Jake dodges Gib's punches quite well. And he would go to the clinch if Gibb broke the distance. Now this is a smart thing to do because then the ref would reset the boxers into a position which favored Jake Paul since he has the longer reach. Gibb's plan was basically to get on the inside by constantly bobbing and weaving and make it a messy fight. But Jake did not allow that to happen by keeping range and constantly clinching. And because Gibb is so wild, he starts to lose his sense of balance. Jake's timing and power has also improved tremendously, and it only takes one clean shot from him to knock down Gibb. And he continues to knock down Gibb again and again with perfectly timed power shots. He throws one final combination, and that ends the fight. Now my final thoughts on Jake's next fight is that I believe he's gonna win against Nate Robinson by TKO. Despite being a professional athlete, boxing requires a different kind of endurance which can only be attained by training specifically for the sport. And Jake has been training on the sport much longer. Similar to what FaZe Sensei said, all those athletic attributes tend to disappear if you're competing in a very technical sport, which boxing essentially is. Of course, raw power and athleticism can help, but it can only take you so far in a sport like boxing. Jake Paul definitely has the drop on Nate because he's been training in this sport for the last 2 years now, and I've seen him evolve with each of his fights. Unlike Nate, who will experience this for the first time. If this was like a sprinting race or a weightlifting competition, then the outcome would probably be different, but Jake's experience and technique in the sport is what will land him the win. Nate Robinson is also quite a burly guy, and I think this will work against him in the long run. What I see happening is Nate will go a bit wild in the first few rounds, start getting tired, and that's when Jake goes in for the final blow. Then again, I could be wrong. Maybe Nate will come out with something I didn't expect and take home the win. So that's it for the video. Hope you all liked it. Let me know in the comments below who you think is gonna win, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm also trying to keep a steadier pace of uploads, so watch out for some more videos soon.